Ron DeSantis pushing back against woke ideology in Florida's higher education system once again. Now, earlier this week, he announced plans to get tighter controls on faculty, hiring problems, and prohibitions on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that don't actually benefit you when you actually get to the job force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, here to discuss is political commentator Benji Irby. Benji, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's great to have you on. I'm going to jump right in. Governor DeSantis proposed legislation that would prohibit DEI spending in state university budgets on the grounds that taxpayers shouldn't be forced to, quote unquote, subsidize harmful, divisive ideologies. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, I really have bad news for the left, and that is that the cure to racism isn't more racism. And, you know, besides all the histrionics over calling my governor racist, it's not that he's stopping these DEI programs and being privately funded. He's just stopping the public funding of them. So if, you know, George Soros and Patrisse Cullors with their 4 mansions would like to, fund this in a private university, they're more than welcome to. He's emphasizing real-world skills over race theory, things that will actually get people hired, because the last thing the world needs is another unemployable wokey with a chip on their shoulder. He's doing the will of the people of Florida in education. 18% of black women voted for Ron DeSantis in 2018 due to school choice and what he's doing with education. So really what he's doing right now is just the will of Florida voters.
Yeah, well, some of the highlights of this, some of these ridiculous spending measures include $1.8 million for the Florida A&M University Center for Environmental Equity and Justice, $1.1 million a year for the University of South Florida's Diversity and Inclusion Office, $1 million for the Florida International University Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and over $75,000 for the University of Florida Chief Diversity Officer and staff. That's actually my general problem here. Is you have a bunch of DEI officers, and even corporate America is kind of coming around to this, Benji, where they're saying, like, look, we're paying some of these ridiculous, sometimes 6-figure salaries for these DEI officers. What is the product of your work? And have you ever seen a measurable metric of that?
I mean, there is no product of their work. All this is just a wokey slush fund, just like when they do these so-called, bullcrap studies on reparations. All this does is just go to the people who actually study these things, which are just going to contribute it right back to the coffers of Democrats when they run for office again.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But, you know, the College Board just released the official curriculum for the new advanced placement. That's AP. This is for the smart kids now. Advanced placement course. That's not us, Carl. Yeah. African-American studies. Those opposed to the changes say that were made to appease DeSantis. What are they talking about here? What do you think of that?
Well, really what's going on here is that this is not even about, black history, African-American history, because black history or African-American history is American history. It's the same history. It's not like there's a separate history for black people in America as there is for white people. I mean, it's all the same history. We're all Americans. And what he's targeted is the gender studies that are inside of this and all the gender theory and gender ideology. There's no reason why our high schoolers should be taught about all this gender stuff. Because it doesn't help them get jobs, doesn't help them actually move forward. And they always use all this Marxist theory and they cover it by putting black over it so that we're able just to slide it into whatever they like to do in the name of black people. It's wrong, and Ron DeSantis sees it for what it is, and I'm very proud of my governor for getting rid of it.
Yeah, well, and that's part of the reason why you yourself moved to Florida. But the media reaction to this has been absolutely insane. Obviously, Tyre Nichols, that whole situation, even though it was 5 black officers on black on black crime, or it was crime actually, because these officers have now been fired and arrested. But they're in a frenzy over this, somehow tying this to white supremacy and Ron DeSantis. Listen to this.
George Floyd, Tyre Nichols, how many more times? And this is why we cannot ban history. This is why.
Tell your
this
man.
Is why.
Tell your guy.
We need to learn.
Tell him.
This is why, in the midst of all of this happening, banning AP African American studies in Florida is the wrong thing to do, because we need to learn from history, not to repeat the same things over and over again.
Benji, the people that would take AP African American studies, do you think that would have changed the outcome of any of those crimes that she mentioned?
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely not. And the thing is that Ron DeSantis is not banning AP African American studies. He's just taking the gender theory and the woke garbage out of it. Because at the end of the day, this is not going to get African American students jobs, which is the point of them going to school and which is the point of them being smart and using their intellect to help get them jobs and to move them forward in life instead of having them have a chip on their shoulder and to be this next generation of victims. That's what this is all about. I'm 6 generations away from slavery. My great-great-great-grandfather was a slave. So as further that we get away from slavery, it's like the left has to have a new generation to keep this whole thing going. They have to keep the slavery grift going. They have to keep the oppression grift going. So they have to put it in our schools to keep it going. That's the point of all this. It's ridiculous.
Well said.
Who actually were slaves, like my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Hampshire Brown.
Great commentary. I think, people listening to you right now say, here's a man that actually gets it, understands. We really appreciate your perspective. Benji Irby, everyone, thank you so much for being on with us.
Thank you.
You know, Cole, we were speaking earlier, and I think that these woke Americans are forgetting something. We did fight a war to end slavery, did we not? Isn't that what separates our history from world history overall? Because there was always slavery throughout the world since the beginning of time. But what makes us special?
Well, yeah, exactly. But then you have woke leaders, like elected officials, who are like, I'm not going to, pledge allegiance to the Constitution. It's racist. It's like, apparently they didn't read the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. But, we are the only country to ever fight a war to end the oppression and the slavery that happened here. And it's happened in nearly every single empire, country, whatever.
No, no question about it. Well, with that, we'll be right back. You're watching Wake Up America Weekend only on Newsmax.